All right, give me a second. I got to fuel up for the discussion. All right, guys. So now to this episode of Teammate Talks, which I've titled Don't Let Them Do It For You. So what this really boils down to, what I really want to talk about is discipline. So discipline, we always define it here as always trying your best, but discipline is the practice of training yourself to obey a certain code of behavior. Training yourself to do what needs done. And this is regardless of motivation or anything along those lines. And I can tell you firsthand, as someone with some diagnoses that are difficult to deal with, that depression is hard. Depression is a nightmare on your discipline. It makes it very, very difficult. And so, especially when you're dealing with depression, it really boils down to a level of willpower, right? To train yourself to do what you've got to do, such as these live videos, for example. I hate doing these live videos when I'm depressed, but if I'm honest with you, I've had some struggles with depression for about 3 weeks now. But I still keep telling myself, I have to do this, I have to do this. We get to that have to do it phase, and you kind of obsess about having to do it. That's that level of willpower that'll bring about a training of discipline in your body to where you'll take care of it regardless, right? So the thing about discipline is it's up to you, right? You can't let the way you think about the things you do, the way you think about yourself, be up to other people. And this is something that I struggle with immensely. So what I mean is, one of the biggest discipline killers, one of the things that really will destroy discipline, motivation, and things along those lines, is when you leave your thoughts or your feelings about what you're doing and how you're doing up to other people. If you if you go to work out at the gym and someone else is doing twice as much as you and they seem to be doing it easily, especially if they say something to you or they start nagging you. If you have someone you work out with that starts nagging you or egging you or teasing you about not being able to do the level that they're doing or something along those lines, that's leaving it up to them. If you let that affect you, if it gets to you, and I say let it, it's not about letting it, but if it gets to you, then you're leaving your feelings about yourself and your discipline up to them. And something, when it comes to discipline, you can't leave it up to them. It's got to be up to you. You have to make it about you. And the thing is we've trained ourselves from an early age. We've trained ourselves to believe that who we are is a reflection of how other people respond to us. I know this is something that I fall into a lot, right? Of thinking that I am whatever other people respond to me as. But the fact of the matter is my behavior is my behavior, their behavior is their behavior, and I don't have to like their behavior, but I can not like their behavior and not feel like I have to change mine or it's a reflection on mine necessarily. You know what I mean? At the same time, there's behaviors I need to change and things along those lines, but the thing is you can't leave who you want to be up to them. You can't leave what you want to do up to them. You can't leave your motivation up to them. You have to do it for you. You've got to keep that for yourself. So it's about not comparing, not letting that kind of thing from other people get the better of you, right? You can't leave it up to them. It has to be up to you. It's not about what those people think. It's about how you feel inside. And what they think and how they say it can feel like it changes what we feel inside, but it only changes what we feel inside because for our whole lives we've trained ourselves to change what we feel inside based upon what other people say. We've done this since we were little with our parents. Our parents would tell us something and then we would feel bad because we decide, I wouldn't really want to be that way. I see what they're saying, so then we would feel bad. So we begin to think of ourselves as a reflection of the behavior of other people towards us, because that's how it works with guidance and mentors. That's how we learn from others, right? That's how we learn from the mistakes of others, and everything else is by letting their thoughts, adjust to our feelings. But then you get to a certain age, and we've trained to do that. We've trained to let how other people behave towards us affect how we feel about ourselves. And there's a certain point where we have to get to a point at a certain age where we separate that, and we can still learn from other people, but remember that it's not about what they think, it's about how I feel. And if I can truly set aside and forget what they think, if I can truly set aside and forget what they said, if I can truly set aside and forget what they were doing and focus on just what I'm doing and how I feel about what I'm doing, and learn to be grateful for what I get out of what I'm doing, right? So maybe that guy does 300 sit-ups and I can only do 10. Well, I can be grateful for the fact that I could do 10. There's people out there that can't do that. You know what I mean? Instead of comparing myself and feeling bad because I can't keep up with that person next to me, or because I'm not able to keep up with that person next to me right now. Of course, just like anything else, right? You go to succeed at something. Too many people think you're supposed to succeed or do amazingly at the first time, but that's not how it works. It's about discipline and constantly doing your best so you get these incremental improvements over time. The thing you may not realize is that you get 10 sit-ups today, that person next to you got 300, but how much longer have they been doing it than you? And how do you know that they didn't start off with doing 10? You know what I mean? How do you know that they didn't start off at a certain point? You can't start something today and immediately compare yourself to someone who's been doing it for 5 years. And we get that all the time. We come in here, like I'll be working out or I'll do something before class, and people can sometimes get intimidated. Oh, I can't do that. I'll never be able to do that. Well, you've only been doing this for a month. You've only been doing this for a week. You've only been doing this for a year. Gosh, I've been doing this most of my life. You know, I've got a couple of decades in. And you know what? There's people that have only been doing this a week that can do things that I can't do. There's certain levels of talent and things involved as well. But this all comes down to discipline. So I'm talking about how to keep your discipline. Discipline is the ability to train yourself to do what you need to do regardless. And the biggest part of that is you can't let other people's thoughts do it for you. You can't let other people's thoughts tell you you can't. You can't let other people's teasing and making fun of you tell you you can't. You can't let comparisons to other people tell you you can't. Your discipline is up to you. It's what you decide to do, and it's about what you decide to do to help yourself feel better. And you know what? If you have an issue with comparisons, do it by yourself, right? If you have an issue with comparing yourself to others, then don't go to the gym. Look up some exercises online. Start doing it by yourself at home, and no one can see you, right? And slowly build up and get used to that, right? There is no harm in doing that. But like I said, you can't leave your own discipline and motivation up to what others think about you. The other aspect of that is you get going doing something, right? And you start to get pretty good at it, and other people notice that you start to get pretty good at it, and then you start to get addicted to those accolades. You start to get addicted to that thing, right? This is what I always call the gifted child conundrum. The gifted child conundrum, right? So as a child, some children, and I went through this, go take this dumb little test, and they do this IQ thing, and then like, oh, look, you're gifted, whatever, right? So then you get put in this special program, and you get to do some special things, right? They're a little bit above and beyond. And the more of these special things you do, and the more of them you do well, and the better you do on the tests, and the better you do at the academic skills, and the time, the being timed, and things along those lines, the more accolades you get, the more appreciation you get, the more love you get, the more attention you get. And you start to enjoy that, and that attention becomes the reason that you continue to be gifted, that you continue to go above and beyond. But then a certain point is you hit real life, and you hit a point where nobody cares. You hit a point where nobody around you cares. Nobody's going to give you those accolades. Nobody's going to give you that attention. Nobody's going to give you that love just because you work hard. No one's going to give you those things just because you do this. And at that point, it can't be about them anymore. It's got to be about you. This is where discipline kicks in, and training yourself to go ahead and do it regardless of whether you get that reward today or not, right? Incremental progress. So what weightlifting and exercise is all about. You are not going to see your progress in a day, a week, or a month. You might start to see a little bit of progress between 1 and 3 months in consistently if you're working out 10 to 20 minutes a day, 3 to 5 days a week. But guys, it's incremental. It's so incremental that it's one of those things that once you stay with it, let's say you decide you're going to stay with it for a year, and you're not even going to check yourself. You're not going to check your appearances. You're not going to check your weight. You're not going to check any of those little things you want to, you think of people thinking to check and make sure they're making progress. You decide you're going to go a year and not check any of those. Well, you're going to wake up after 8 months of doing those workouts, and you're going to suddenly look at yourself in a mirror, and you're going to go, wow, when did all these changes happen? Wow, when did I get to look like this? Wow, when did all this happen? Well, it didn't happen overnight. It happened a little piece at a time. But if you pay attention to it constantly, then you can't see those changes happen. So one of the better things to do, especially when it comes to fitness, is to not try to track where you're at on the road. Just keep your head down, watch your feet, take one step at a time down that road. And this isn't just about working out. This is about anything that you might ever want to accomplish in your life, right? If you constantly keep your eyes up there and you're constantly comparing to the roadmap, right, and the markers of where you are, then you're going to feel like you're not making it anywhere, because it's going to feel like you only are making these little tiny markers, and it takes so long to get to those markers. But if you stop thinking about the markers and you look down and you watch your foot take one step at a time, and then in a year you look up and look back and see how far you've come, well, that's different, right? You're going to see major transformations in that case. Like I said, it doesn't matter if we're talking about working out or just working towards a goal or whatever it is, anything along those lines. And guys, I can compare this to driving, right? If you go on a long drive, you go on a long trip, right? You're gonna drive somewhere, if you're constantly looking at every mile marker sign and doing the math in your head about how far it's going to be and how long that's going to take based on your speed, and you're constantly looking for that next sign, that next town, that next whatever that tells you where you are, you're constantly looking for those things that tells you where you are, that trip is going to feel extremely long because you're putting all your attention into every tiny aspect of what's happening right now, right? But if you kind of don't worry about those and you just watch the road and you just keep going and you don't worry about the signs, you don't worry about where you are, you just think, well, I'm going to get there eventually, and you just leave it at that, then guys, you get there eventually and it feels like you get there faster. It feels like it. You don't, but it feels like you get there much faster. This comes down to our perception of time. Our perception of time changes based on what we are paying attention to. If we are present in the moment and really thinking about just what's going on in the moment, then time slows down for us. It slows down a lot. This is one of the main things that we train for in martial arts and fighting, is to learn how to get to that space of being so present in the current moment, the threat, or whatever is going on, so present without fear, without anxiety, without any of that. Just so present in the moment that time seems to slow down. This is where you get people who've been trained long enough that when you watch them from the side, they don't look fast, but when you try to fight them, they appear to be extremely fast, and they're so relaxed and laid back. It's because they're in that mind state. They know how to get to that present moment attention, and when you're in the present moment, you're not worried about what might happen in the fight, you're not worried about what might happen in the future, you're not worried about getting hit or caught, you're not worried about what just happened in the past, you're not worried about any of those kind of things. Then in that moment, you're free from suffering, you're free from fear, you're free from all of it if you can only be thinking about this moment. Not the next technique you're going to throw, not the next combination you're going to throw, not how you're going to guard this, not tactics or any of that. You let the mind go machine, totally clear, and be just in the present moment. Sense it, feel it, let it happen. Guys, at that moment, you're free of anxiety, you're free of fear, you're free of suffering, and time slows down. You can use that to your advantage in everyday life once you learn how to access that and then come back out of it. If you want time to speed up, go get lost in your head. Get lost in your head, time goes super, super fast, right? It just kind of disappears on you through daydreams. You see what I mean? Time speeds up the faster we think and the more we think. Time slows down the more we're present in the moment and the less we think. So this has a lot to do with ways that you can control your discipline and control your ability to train yourself to do what you need to do, to be who you want to be, to become who you want to be, and stop trying to measure yourself based on the reactions of other people to you. I know this has happened to me a couple of times where I've went to do something like majorly life improving, and I've had to like shift my mindset to look at things entirely differently. And then I remind myself, don't compare myself, don't worry about how other people respond. But sometimes, guys, when you do this, sometimes as you're feeling good and you're feeling good about yourself and what you're doing, sometimes even your loved ones, your family members, and those immediately around you will begin to respond as if they're frustrated with you, or as if they don't like the new you, or as if they are iffy about you. And that's mostly because people are resistant to change. So sometimes when you make a positive change for yourself, sometimes the people around you, your loved ones and stuff that are so used to you being a certain way, won't like it at first, right? And their reactions and their responses will become frustrated, irritated, and all of these other things. And if you let their responses get into your mind state and affect you're trying to improve yourself, then you're going to lose your discipline. You're going to lose your discipline because you're leaving it up to them instead of up to you. It's up to you to do what you want to do to feel good, to do what you got to do to feel good and all of that. It's up to them to decide if they're going to go with you and care about you and respond to you in a healthy and appropriate way, or if they're going to respond to you in a way that is irritated or frustrated or doesn't like the new you and tries to pull you back down. Most people will try to pull you back down at first. They're going to, because people are resistant to change. That doesn't mean they don't care about you. It just means that they liked things the way they were, and they aren't to that point yet where they can accept that you want it to be better, that you want to be better, that you want to do something that is better. And once they can accept that, it takes 3 or 4 weeks, but once they can accept that, then everything gets better. But until they can accept that, they might even come across as offish towards you. They might even try to talk you out of the changes that are making you feel good about yourself. I've let this happen to me multiple times in the past few years, where I've started to make changes in my lifestyle that made me feel real good about myself, but I let the reactions of people around me, people that cared about me, who were worried about me because I was so different, because I was thinking differently, because I was doing things differently, and I let that drag me back into who I was before, who I used to be, because I care about them, so I want them to be happy with me. But if they're being happy with me is completely dependent on me being a certain way that I'm not happy with, that I'm not happy with myself with, then I've got to use that discipline and not leave it up to them as to who I want to be. Make it up to me as to who I want to be. Leave it up to them to whether they want to keep growing with me, keep moving with me, and keep making those changes with me and support me along the way, or will they change their mind and come around? Or if they don't, make that on them. That's on them. That's not on you. That's on them. That's their behavior, not yours. Your behavior just needs to make you feel like you're a better person and you're doing the right things and you're moving in the right directions, right? It doesn't matter what they think. It doesn't matter what they're coming out about. I know if you guys on the video, I know Miss Rose is actually sitting here next to me. She had something she wanted to say a little while ago. Do you still have that?
Oh my God, no, we are so far past that.
All right, but here's the thing, guys. You have to get to this point. You have to think your own thoughts. You can't think about how other people respond to you and what their thoughts about you must be. That's how we're raised, though. We're raised to be worried about how other people think about us. I want to make friends. We're raised to worry about how our parents think about us because I want someone to be proud of me. We're raised to worry about what anyone we care about thinks about us because we want them to like us. But fact of the matter is that's toxic. That whole thing is extraordinarily toxic for us, especially in our older ages, in our adult ages, right? In the end, if we're always trying to make ourselves to be who everyone else or who other people around us want us to be because we want to care about them, then we're not ever being who we really are. We're stuck in a rut and we become unsure of ourselves. We become unsure of who we really are, and we start to, totally question reality. But, especially when we're not getting that care, we're not getting that attention, we're not getting those accolades, we're not getting those attaboys, right, from those people, especially when we're not getting those, then, it's easy to fall into this trap of feeling like you're just not enough, or feeling like all of those things. But that's because, like I said, from the time we're young, we're raised to not stand on our own 2 feet and be who we want to be. We're raised to get the pride and appreciation of other people. And some of us, especially, this is where I get the gifted conundrum, some of us even more so than others, we're pushed down that road, right? And then we start to create our own selves and everything that we do around what's going to make another person happy, what's going to make them care about us, what's going to make, what do they want to see, right? And the problem with that is then we can never live to our potential. We can never be ourselves, and we're constantly living in anxiety and fear of how they're going to react to anything that we do at that point, right? Again, it all comes back down to discipline and the willingness and ability to train yourself to do what needs done for the betterment of you, for your improvement, and not worry about, I don't care how much they care about you, I don't care how much you care about them. If you start worrying about how the loved ones are looking at it, then you're going to start doing it for pride and accolades, or you're going to start worrying about the fact that they're starting to get upset or frustrated because you're spending an extra 2 hours a week on yourself doing something, or you're taking over a lot of things that you want to do, and they feel like they're pushed to the side and things along those lines. And it happens. And that happens because they were comfortable with the situation as it was. But then you start doing things that make you feel good, that you want to do, that go along those lines, and sometimes they feel pushed to the side. They're going to feel pushed to the side because they used to be able to do all that for you, right? They used to be able to take care of those things for you, and that gave them purpose. That made them feel like their purpose was to do those things for you. And then when you start to do those things for yourself, then they start getting worried that they don't have a place. They start getting worried about these other things, and they will try to pull you back down to the person that you used to be. It's difficult sometimes for the closest people to you, the ones that care about you the most. It is the most difficult for them to support you in big changes, because big changes for yourself, big improvements for yourself, mean that big changes for them as well that they don't know if they can deal with, and they don't know if they can move around. And the thing is neither one of you should be worried about whether you can move around it, or who's needed what, or what the purpose is, or this, that, and the other. The only thing, if you're in a relationship with somebody, you should be concerned about is how you feel about yourself, and whether or not, and how they feel about themselves, and whether or not those two things gel together, whether or not those two things work together appropriately or not. And if they don't work together, then finding a way to divide, right? Finding a way to divide and split equally to make it work. Hey, Mr. Galloway, it's good to see you on here. It's a true story, he says. So do you have anything else you wanted to add at this point, or you want me to move on to the final thing?
No, go ahead. You've covered everything thoroughly. I didn't even need to be here.
So
you're looking pretty.
So the key is, don't believe what you believe just because someone told you. This is the key about it. Don't believe what you believe just because it's what your parents told you. Don't believe what you believe just because it's what your loved ones told you. Don't believe what you believe just because everyone around you believes it. I see this all the time, especially in politics. Oh my gosh, politics is the worst case for this. So many times I see people that hate a particular politician or hate this or hate that or whatever else. And when you really get down deep and continually ask them why, they'll have several reasons at first, but the main reason it almost always boils down to, well, everyone I know hates them. Well, everyone I know is against this. Well, everyone I know. Guys, you have to stop comparing yourself to peers. You have to stop trying to fit in. You have to stop trying to find echo chambers. You have to stop trying to just do and believe and say what everyone around you is doing and believing and saying. You've got to figure this out for yourself. So don't just believe things about you because that's what your spouse believes. Don't just believe things about you because that's just what your kid believes. Don't believe things about you because that's what your parents said. Don't believe things about anything just because that's what your friends believe. Guys, guess what? Your friends can be wrong. Your whole town can be wrong. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. Some people do things and think things and believe things because that's what they were told to do. Don't be that person. Do things, think things, and believe things because in your experience is what you found. It's what feels right. It's what seems right to you, right? And I got to be honest, all the hate, since we bring up politics, all the hate doesn't feel right to me in any shape or form. Hate doesn't feel right to me. I don't like it, and even I feel it. Everybody feels hate and rage, but it doesn't feel right to me. So any actions that are based in hate and rage, I'm not going to take those actions. Any beliefs that are based in hate and rage, I'm not going to think about those. Instead, I might even try to change my mind. I might even try to practice the art of being able to consider the opposite point without getting frustrated or emotionally invested in it, because that's how we grow as a person, and that's how we can actually decide for ourselves what we want to believe. The thing is if we put everything we believe up to everyone else, everything we believe externally, whether it's politics or whatever, then we start to put everything we believe internally about ourselves also on that peer group, also on that echo chamber. So we start trying to adapt and be exactly like them because we want them to approve of us. You guys see the trap, right? This is the trap. You start acting like them because you want them to approve of you. You want friends, you want cared ones, you want loved ones. But then as you're acting like them, you're not really being yourself, and you know that deep down. You know deep down some of it doesn't feel right. You know deep down some of this doesn't feel right. But you know what? You get caught up in that comfort of going, but if I act like this, but if I am like this, but if I believe like this, then these people will support me. Who cares if they support you or not? It doesn't matter who supports you. It matters if you can support yourself. It matters if you can feel good about yourself. It matters if you can hold yourself up, because it's only through that that you can become to your full potential, and you can raise to be able to do what you need to do, what you set out to do. And you can actually begin to have a great impact on the world then when you stop worrying about the world and what it thinks of you. Right? The world is not changed by the people that fit into it. The world is changed by the people who refuse to fit into it and decide to do their own thing anyway. Decide to teach their own thing anyway. Decide to spread their own message anyway. It's exactly what we've been doing. Whether we're talking about the Teammate Talks podcast, we're talking about our Word of the Week system, we talk about all this stuff. It's me saying that, hey, this is what I believe, and I know it's not the same way as a lot of people believe, and I know it's different, but I also know it's true for me, and it's true to my experience, and it's true to my core. So I'm going to share that, right? I'm not going to do and believe what everyone around me does and believes. I'm not going to say that I believe in everything and what around me believes. I'm not going to do that unless I truly do, unless I've truly explored that within myself. That's discipline, guys. That's discipline. The ability to train your brain, the ability to train yourself to do what you need to do, to not take everything as it is. I mean, to take everything with a grain of salt, to study it yourself, to live by your own experience, to figure it out for yourself, instead of just experiencing what other people think and say, experiencing the way they believe in it, and then taking that as your own dogma, right? Don't steal your dogma from other people, right? Steal your dogma from something bigger. Like, we're all flawed. People are all flawed. Every stinking one of us. So don't take your dogma from other people that are just as flawed as you are, just in different ways, right? If you're going to take your dogma from an external source, you know what I recommend? Go read stories. Go read stories about heroes. Go read stories of fantasy novels about people who overcame amazing obstacles, untrue people, fictional stories. Go read those stories. If you want to model a dogma after anybody, model it after something like that, because those are written out stories that weren't real, but they're planned to show the true heroic behavior a person can have, the true integrity a person could be capable of if they tried. If you're going to model yourself after something, model yourself after that. Model yourself after something that's bigger than what your neighbors are or can be or will ever be, right? Model yourself after something that that really gets the fire burning within you, that really lights that spark. For me, I'm going to say it. I'll give a shout out right now to one of my favorite authors, R.A. Salvatore. He's a fantasy author, wrote a story about Drizzt the Dark Elf, right? And the Dark Elves were the underground peoples, and they were fighters and killers, and they didn't trust each other and this, that, and the other, but he was different. He didn't think like that. This guy was compassionate. So he did what he had to do to survive. He changed himself to be what he had to be. He became a killer to survive, but he didn't sit well with him. It didn't sit well with him because it didn't seem right, even though that's what everybody did, even though that's what everybody believed. Everybody believed in this. He didn't believe in it. He didn't feel like it was right. So you know what he did? He left. He ran away, and he went and lived by himself for 10 years in the caves, in the complete darkness, without any companions or any, well, he had one technically, but without anything like that, right? And he went and did that because that was better to him. To be the best version of himself, to do what he felt was right, was more important to him than to belong with his peers, than to fit in with his society. And then eventually he finds his way to the surface through all the stories. Guys, there's like 30 books in this series. And then he finds his way to the surface through all these stories, and he's different, and he's looked down upon because he doesn't look like everybody else, because he doesn't think like everybody else, because he doesn't act like everybody else. But you know what? Does he let that get him down? No. Instead, he keeps standing up for those people, and even though they don't want him around and they keep kicking him out of his towns, he still stands up for them, and he protects them, and he does things like this, right? So this is the kind of stuff that I want to model myself off of. I don't want to model myself off of Joe Blow down the street. That's not who I want to be, right? I want to be bigger than that. And so I model myself off a fictional character. And you know what? That works better for me, right? And that way, I don't have to worry about what that character thinks of me. I don't have to worry about what that other person's opinion is. I don't have to worry about fitting in with what they believe. I don't have to worry about agreeing with them. I don't. Then I can truly learn to be myself. And when you can learn to be yourself, you can go move forward with that, then you can really start your work on true discipline and training yourself to do what you have to do to be who you want to be, to feel good about yourself, to reach the goals you want to make. Whether we're talking about fitness, mental health, career, it don't matter, guys. This is universal truth right here. And that discipline is just training yourself to do the right thing, whether you feel like it or not, whether you got motivation or not. It takes an immense amount of willpower to care for or save somebody who tried to kill you. You know what I mean? But that's the kind of person I want to be. I want to be the kind of person that this person tried to tear me down. This person tried to completely destroy my life. But then if I see them 6 months later on the side of the river homeless, I'm still going to go down there and give them my jacket and give them some food and set them up with a place to stay if I've got the money, and pay for their rent for the first 3 months if I got the money, and try to help them get a job. Now, they just tried to turn me down 3 months ago. Why would I do that? Because it makes me feel good, because then I know who I really am. And that's who I want to be, right? Has nothing to do with them, right? Call it selfish if you want. Has nothing to do with them or anything else. Has everything to do with making sure that I go to bed at night feeling good about myself. That's what it really comes down to. And it can be selfish or otherwise, but what makes me feel good is making sure that I'm not being like everybody else, that I'm not building that constant resentment, that I'm not going out there and trying to tear down people and going tit for tat and eye for eye, that I'm not doing that, right? That I'm doing what I need to do for me, and if I'm in a position that I can do for others, even if they tried to hurt me, then I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to do for them too. I don't care, right? Just like Drizzt did in those stories I was just talking about, right? That's the kind of thing I like to model myself after. I'm not model myself after what my peers think of me, right? Don't believe in what you believe just because that's what they told you, right? So, you got anything to add to that?
No.
As a last thing, you can't wait for someone to fill up your glass. No one's going to do it for you. No matter how much they care for you, no one is going to do it for you. You can't wait for someone else to go out there and help you get fit. You can't wait for someone else to go out there and help you with your diet. You can't wait for someone else to go out there and do this. I've tried that. I've tried going to people I care about, loved ones and otherwise, and trying to set up workout schedules and stuff, try to keep myself motivated, go together, and I think maybe this person will help me stay motivated and keep going. Guys, it doesn't work. It doesn't work that long. It doesn't work that well. You've got to go out and fill your own glass, because even the ones that care about you the most, they're not going to do it for you, right? You got to go out and get fit yourself. You got to go out. You got to go out and study yourself. You want to get better up here, you got to go out and study the brain yourself. You got to go out and study psychology yourself, because those people around you, they're not going to help you. They're not going to help you. They have their own glass that they're worried about. They're not going to sit there and help you reach your goals until you're already moving towards your goals, right? No one was ever going to come in here and work for me as a martial arts instructor if I wasn't first in here working for me, doing it to start with. Then I was never going to get someone else to come in here and work for me with that same kind of passion. I had to go fill my cup myself before anyone else was ever going to be willing to follow me. You hear what I'm saying? Before anyone else is ever going to be willing to follow you, do it with you, help you, work with you, or otherwise, you've got to grab your cup and go do it yourself. You've got to get out there and go make it happen yourself. No one's gonna magically talk you into helping your career get better. No one's gonna magically talk you into a career change or more education or learning something or getting fit or learning a new skill. No one's going to push you into that. No one cares that, to the point that they're going to push you into the things that make you feel good. At least not as an adult. Your parents will do that, but as you're an adult, your parents ain't doing that no more. No one's going to push you to get you better unless you can do it yourself. And that's the whole point, right? When we raise kids as parents, yeah, we want to push them to be the best of themselves. We want to push them in the right directions. We want to guide them in the right directions. But one of the key things is we want to make sure that by the time they're adults, that they can guide themselves, that they can go out there and fill their own glass, that they can go out there, figure out what they want, and take the steps to go get it. Whether it's applying for jobs, whether it's anything else. I've given this career advice before, right? Apply for jobs you don't know if you can do. Apply for jobs you know you're not. If you need a job, apply for jobs you know you're not. Shoot up here. Apply for jobs you know you're not qualified for. You guys have any idea how many times I've talked about how many jobs I've got offered in my life that I had zero qualifications for just because I went for it. And I'd get an interview because they'd be like, well, this guy's got some guts. He's going for a job he has absolutely zero experience in, and an $80,000 a year job. And, so they decided to give me an interview because they're curious about me. Because, who does that? Not that many people do. And then I show up to that interview and I talk big game. And I'm like, look, I don't know. I'll just be honest. I don't know anything about this job. I don't know anything about how to do it. But I'm a quick learner, And, I'm just interested in working hard. I'm interested in that. You'd be surprised how many people respond positively to that. How many employers respond positively to that. Right? I had it happen. I've never been in the mining industry in my life. I got offered a job with the Oklahoma mining whatever as a safety inspector. I don't know nothing. I even told them I don't know nothing about mining, but they had me come in for 2 different interviews. What was that all about? Why did they even consider me with absolutely no background? Guys, I was up against people that had been in mining their entire lives. So why do you think they were going to pick me? Right? It just had everything to do with the fact that I was gutsy enough to go out there and stand my ground and be honest and do what I needed to do. And that's what they felt like they needed in a safety inspector, someone who was going to be honest and call it like they saw it. And that guy, the guys that I was against that had been in the mining industry, they didn't come across as honest. They tried to show the best in themselves. They tried to pump themselves up and look like they were just amazing at their job. I didn't walk into that office and do that. I didn't walk into those interviews trying to talk myself up. I didn't at all. I talked myself down. I thought about, well, I'm a quick learner, but I don't know nothing about this. I talked myself down, and that's why they were willing to give me the job, because they knew I was going to be honest. They knew I was going to be honest. So what's more important as a safety inspector? What's the most important thing, probably?
Honest.
Absolute honesty and the ability to just call it like it is, right? And that's why I was offered that job. So that's just one example. But my point is no one's going to go out there and do it for you. No one's going to go out there and find things to suggest for you to do. Everybody's busy. Everybody's got their own things going on, and they're not going to take the time to put that into you unless you're already doing it yourself. Now, if someone knows you're already out there trying to change jobs, or you're already out there trying to improve your fitness, or this, that, and the other, then if they're supportive, then once you start doing it, once you grab your glass and you go out there and get it, the supportive ones around you, they'll follow you. They'll start making suggestions. They'll start helping you out. They'll start helping you look for other jobs. They'll start helping you find new exercises. They'll start helping do it with you. Those are the supportive ones. And that's one way that you can tell who's real around you, who's actually got your back, right? Because I know sometimes it can feel like you got everyone around you, but you got to ask yourself sometimes, how many of these people that I got me too? How many of these people that I got are going to support me too, regardless, no matter what? Here's how you tell. Grab your own glass, go out there, try to fill it, see who's upset about it, and see who supports you at it. So this has been my talk about discipline and training yourself to do the right thing, do what you need to do regardless, right? This has nothing to do with motivation. Discipline is its own thing. Discipline is the ability to get yourself to do what you need to do, what you've got to do, regardless of whether you want to do it, regardless of any of that, just because you know that in the end, it's going to help you be who you want to be, and it's going to help you live a purpose that makes you feel good, and it's going to help you feel better about yourself. That's what it really all comes down to. So until I see you guys again, be the best teammates you can be, and be the best at being you.